Hello, welcome to Trendsetter's Table. We have a very lovely first guest. Yay! So why don't you talk to us a bit about yourself? Who are you? Why are we so lucky? Why are we blessed to have your presence? Why are you here?
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So first of all, right,
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I heard that I am your first guest ever on your podcast.
Yay!
And off screen, I already said it's a good thing you asked me because if I wasn't your first guest, I would be pretty upset, right? So thank you for having me. My name is Olivia Lee, and I'm the co-founder of LIVVIUM. It's a Metaverse and a Web3 consultancy. And I'm also known as a Metaverse explorer. I've explored over 20 plus Metaverse platforms and over 70 and more brand activation. Probably more now. I probably lost count after a bit.
Wow.
Good to be here.
No, it's super great to have you here, and we kind of know you from before, but I think the most interesting thing is because our podcast is kind of geared towards like millennials, Gen Zs, like, and a lot of people are really wondering like how to start things. So, did you always imagine you're going to be an entrepreneur growing up? Is that always like kind of the goal? Like, how did you get here?
Oh, okay. So that big question, right? So I guess let me rewind a bit and kind of talk about how did I get to this place of running my own Metaverse consultancy as an independent consultant. So I have always had the entrepreneurial spirit, that is for sure. I think at a very young age, born and raised in Canada, I was already mowing lawns, newspaper route, shoveling snow. Like there was always this thing about like, gotta make some extra cash. You know what I mean? Like you just have to do that, right? So on top of that, my parents have always had their own businesses. So through that, I kind of see that their kind of like grit and determination to make a place for themselves when they moved to Canada in the late 70s. So entrepreneurial has always been a part of my master plan. And I really enjoy learning and studying and being curious about the latest trends, latest industry, always trying to keep myself kind of on top of what's happening and engage and learn and apply. So I've always kind of thought about the entrepreneurial journey.
Got it. I mean, I think that feeds a little bit into the next question, which would be in terms of your professional journey. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Born and raised in Canada, as I mentioned. All of my professional working life has been in Hong Kong, but I didn't plan to come to Hong Kong to work. I think as a university student, I think I was pretty much set on working and finding my place in Canada. And I knew at a very young age, I definitely love fashion. And that was just something that's just always been in my life for like as long as I can remember. Buying my first Vogue with the money I made from mowing the lawn, like all these kind of things all kind of set the pace. So when I came to Hong Kong, honestly, for a trip, because at the time, it wasn't so hard to, like, it wasn't so easy to get a job, right after university, you're very like ready to like jump into, mid-office and work somewhere and not doing your like sales associate kind of role, like front end role, you're kind of thinking, I got my business degree, I need to be doing something, working in the office, more corporate, right? You could say that, right? So that's what I was pursuing.
Yeah.
But I think market was a little bit tough back then. And I remember sending like hundreds of emails through this thing called like monsters.com, if it's still around in Canada, and get no feedback.
Yeah. Monster.ca.
Oh, wait, monster.ca. Yes, the other fellow Canadian knows. So then after a while, I just came to Hong Kong for a holiday and thinking of just reset and then go back and try again. But I mean, I got here, I think it was right after university. It was in the like 2003 or 2004. I had a short stint in entertainment in Vancouver. So that kind of brought me into Hong Kong. And then at that time, it was a whole new world to me because I think my mind has gone to think about opportunities and where can it bring me. So I got right into teaching English because living standards is high in Hong Kong and you need to find a place that you're comfortable and you meet a lot of friends. So I did that for a very short while, got into banking, so I was at Credit Suisse for a short little time, knew that that's not my thing. Then very luckily, I jumped into luxury watches. And this was during the hype of big spenders. Like it was the time. If I think about it, I wish I actually kind of kept good records of every amazing thing that I can.
Yeah.
We're talking about like flying VIP students, VIP
Yeah.
customers to like destinations just
Wow.
to see the watch launch,
Yeah.
yacht launches, you
Jesus.
know, and there was a lot of these like collaborations with a watch and a car brand. So back then I worked for, can I name names here?
Yeah, you of
So I
course.
worked for Parmigiani, which is a luxury Swiss watch that's still run independently here in Hong Kong. And they did a crossover with Bugatti, and
Oh,
then
wow.
also with Pershing, the really fastest boat.
Yeah.
So there'll be like crossovers, and you bring clients and VIP to go check it out, and then they
Yeah.
buy the watches and everything. It was an amazing time. Luxury watches, then after all, you know, in every girl story, family life, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, settle down, had a kids. Then I started thinking about having my own business. So I started with I think I didn't find any, this is the start of blogging. So 2008, nobody was doing blogs yet, or vlogs, obviously. No social media, not really. Facebook just started in 2004. So I started I guess like a media site that's for helping moms and parents to find resources about what's going on. Did that.
But what's going on like in Hong Kong or what's going
Yeah,
on?
Hong Kong, like,
Okay.
you know, making meetups,
Okay, nice.
selling, swapping parties, like, you know, when you have so many gifts.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I had all these ideas, and
Yeah.
back then it was hard. And actually, it's leading up to what we're going to probably talk about Web3 is, you know, you have to hire people to help you make websites because it's not something like where you can drag and drop and build your own website on Wix or Shopify or anything like that. You got to hire people. So naturally, CRM and everything, you have to hire people to help you manage it and all this kind of things. So let's rewind, fast forward a bit more. Then I jumped into events fundraising. So raised a lot of money for charities around Hong Kong and Asia, opened a few offices. And then second kid, found my way to having my own magazine, digital fashion magazine.
Oh, wow.
And then on top of that, that's when I experienced with social media influencers and affiliate marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then it led me to other company, private investment company, and that's how I met you guys.
Ah. Well, I mean, it's actually really interesting. So your career has spanned so many different things, from like banking to, you know, luxury goods to kind of starting your own thing. Like, did you always imagine yourself, like when you were in banking, did you always know like, okay, this is not really what I wanted to do? Or when you were in luxury watches, like, because it's quite a circuitous path, you could have always gone back into traditional industries. Like, what kept you going out of it?
I think everything that I've experienced, maybe there's like a new door that opened. Maybe I've met somebody that really inspired me. Maybe there was like a new kind of industry that opened up, and naturally, because we're in the Web3 industry and we really pay attention to technologies and tools and stuff, a lot of these technologies also open new opportunities. And then I find myself start thinking about what can I use or learn with these tools to build something on my own. So I always find myself gravitating between working for someone, because it's wonderful to have you know, coworkers and having the stability and having the peers and you know, structure and all that kind of stuff. And then kind of like finding this sort of segue to be like, oh, well, I got to experience something on my own and kind of learn new things and see where it can bring me. So I've always had this learn and apply attitude. So that's also why I started my second business, the magazine, is because when I started discovering that Instagram was starting to be really popular, there's a rise of KOLs and all this kind of stuff. And then of course, all the Wix and magazine builders. And then I had to have an end goal. My end goal was like, I've always wanted to be in a magazine, or I want to be a publisher of a magazine. How can I make it possible? Well, I'm going to make my own.
That's so true. There's certain things that you can only get when you're in different roles, right? When you work for someone, it's hard to get a very high level overview of how the business works. There's certain things that you won't touch, and as an entrepreneur, like there's certain areas that you have to excel in, right? So having looked at so many different fields, would there be something you would recommend to someone who's looking to start out, starting out their professional career?
Yeah. Recently, I was invited to be a speaker at an education fair. And I found that to be really a wonderful opportunity for me because I find that parents, majority of the parents, were more interested in like where to find the right school for their children. They're more interested, and I think one of the advice I shared with them is let them have and find like a you know like an expert area that they're interested. If it's engineer, if it's medicine, if it's business, it doesn't really matter in terms of their degree, but let them have that because parents, I mean, I do believe having a degree is important. But also let them experience everything else, like well-roundedness, and hopefully it leads to passion. And especially when we are in this stage of talking about Web3 and stuff, having this creators economy really is able to give people this more kind of closeness to finding their joy. And that also is a good thing. So I think having the ability to try different things, but also encourage them to spend some time to learn it before they reach a peak. Like they wouldn't know how much they love it till they reach a certain kind of a milestone, right? So I think something like that is important.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. Not to like harp on it too much, but I think there's kids are not in the very far away for some of us. So like we're just, but I think it's quite interesting because you talk a lot about like finding your passion, what you're really good at, and what really drives you. And I'm just kind of curious, like when you're giving that advice as someone that's kind of, from your career, you've always kind of done the next thing. Like, you know, you were into blogging. I mean, when you were into that whole scene before it became really big, you did your own fashion magazine, KOL stuff. Now you're doing Web3. Like, how do you teach a kid that, right? Because I feel like what's happening now, there's so many changes, VR, AR, Web3, AI. Like, how do you, as a parent or just as someone that's navigating the world, like how do you navigate it?
Oh, I mean, the best thing is to actually just immerse yourself in it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think I'm one of those parents that isn't like, oh, don't play that many games. Don't sit so close to the computer. I was like, take this.
Yeah.
See what you see now.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to as a parent, right? I think it's important to just keep the open-mindedness, to be curious. I think being curious is such a good thing to have, to be curious of life, to kind of attain knowledge, and just find the best medium that makes them want to do more, right? Some people are very tactical. Some people like to imagine things. Some people like to, draw or anything. Just all of these things are all experiences, right? But for me, my kids are my biggest reason why I get this space. The minute I heard about the word Roblox, which is probably 6-7 years ago, and they were very young at the time. And the minute I heard, I wasn't really sure. I only related to what I knew of gaming. So I'm not a gamer, but of course I played a lot of games. I mean, gaming is part of our entertainment and ways to relax. But I understood it right away, so I always encourage them. But now I'm thinking about, did you know you can make things and you can put it on a marketplace? Did you know you can build things and you can keep it? Like, now I'm asking them and giving them kind of guides and telling them to kind of shape the implications of their passion, how they spend all of their time, what they like to do as on its own. It doesn't even have to have any financial return just yet. Yeah. but it's good to have them explore and know that going forward is not just having that dutiful job, like get that job as a lawyer, accountant, doctor. You can explore these things, and if it brings you joy and it brings other people happiness and it gives you a stable enough income, who knows, you don't have to pursue all of that kind of traditional mindset we had for decades of years. Yeah.
Well, I think it's actually, there's a couple of things. It's like, one is you can argue that what you're doing, like teach your kids to sell things on Roblox and stuff. It's the modern day equivalent of like, getting a paper route. It's like the same kind of hustle, right? And the thing you mentioned about, keeping the screen, it's so jokes because, Apple Vision came out recently and it's literally like screens like right to your face. And it's just like, wow, everything my mom told me when I was a kid is exactly the opposite.
Yeah. like stop looking at
Yeah.
me so close. Well, one thing I have to say,
Mm.
like eye doctors and chiropractors, these are jobs that is always gonna be needed. Like, you know,
Future proof. Future proof.
future proof.
Yeah. You mentioned Roblox, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but and your role in Metaverse and everything you do. But if you are starting your career out, right, you've done startups, you've done traditional corporates, where do you recommend someone to start? Like as their first job or their first starting out their career, like what would you suggest? Like, this is what I would do looking back.
I think it's gonna be different for everyone. I never planned my path, huh? I think it's good to have multiple skills. Like, don't be just stuck on one thing. Just kind of diversify your skill sets. Like, you have to be a good communicator. You have to be good at writing. Like, if we bring in the whole thing of AI and stuff, like, it's not going to take over your job, but it's going to take over ones that can do better prompts than you, right? So I think it's like skills, well-roundedness of skills. Don't be just one track, you know, and just find something that you enjoy. It's very different for everyone. I never planned mine to lead to this way, right? So how I actually created LIVVIUM was not also part of the plan at all. I was just having like a extension of time where I didn't know what's next, what should I do next, and it became a good time to put my effort into studying that I was interested in, which turned out to be the metaverse. The minute I heard about it, as in 2021, I was already curious and I already knew what it's going to mean for us, but I didn't know how it's going to affect me personally. And I just took the time to explore and like, what is this fuss about? Naturally, I've been on it many times before I started writing about it and videoing and making short videos on it. But it was just trying to understand it for myself. Like, what does it mean? Why do brands want me to go into these metaverse? What do you want me to do? How do I get on this thing? What should I wear? Like, all of these things were all kind of just purely out of curiosity. And the only thing about me is I've always loved creating content. And I've always loved writing, which is something I put aside for a few years. I didn't realize how much I loved it till I started again. And then I wanted someone to see what I've experienced, because I think it's also so interesting that I want other people to see it. So I just chose LinkedIn to start posting, and that with you guys' support as well, you know? So it was really like just natural. And then it came on what my skill set is, which I enjoy: ideation, creative thinking, a little bit of design thinking and everything. Then the two worlds kind of got together.
Got it. Speaking about design, actually, I know that you have a heavy emphasis on digital fashion. So what do people not get about digital fashion? What is like one of the first questions you get asked generally?
Yeah, why do you not have money to buy real clothes or something? Like, no, I mean, no, I really do have that before. Like, why are you wearing clothes that doesn't exist? Like, I don't get it. Like, why, right? Very, very common that people would ask. They just don't get it, right? But if you think about it, digital fashion is just another form of expressing yourself, right? And at the same time, if you think about where we interact with one another, it's pretty much on social media nowadays. We don't always have the opportunity like today where we get to talk face to face, right? Naturally with COVID, we're pretty much online and it's very normal now to do our FaceTime calls and stuff. But our personality that we put on our social media is really an extension of ourselves. So if you think of it that way, is putting my best face forward is like my curated lifestyle that I want you to see. So how is that different than having digital fashion that can be superimposed onto your body, so you get those reactions that you so wanted anyways? You wanted to have the engagement, you wanted to have the wow factor. And then of course with digital fashion, you can have designers creating things that is not physically possible, right? Either from a texture fabric point of view, either from a budget point of view or gravity point of view. Like imagine I can wear something that has like an earthreal, like an angel wings or halo or something like that. And that's no different from Snapchat filter, which we're all so familiar with. It's just that it now went from the face, it went down to your body. So how is it different? It's not, it's just an extension of who we are and how we express ourselves.
I think that's super interesting about like how, you know, living more online. So that's the way we express. But I think maybe I'll speak for myself, right? One thing I always think of when I think of digital fashion or digital identity, I think of like gaming skins, right? So like Fortnite and everything else. But it's very aesthetic, but it's kind of a different vibe because you're playing a game. Do you see a difference with like digital fashion? Like, I mean, like Gucci or Louis Vuitton do something versus like, you know, Fortnite does a collab with Star Wars, so you can dress up like, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, in your mind, are those two things different or not at all? Or yeah.
They're totally the same thing.
Oh, okay.
I feel like in my definition, I'm sure it's going to be different for every person, like thought leader who's in it. To me, digital fashion can be used among different kind of online community. It's just an extension of how you want to express yourself. But for gaming in particular, I think it kind of shows if you're part of the inner clan or community, if you guys are kind of collaborate together to beat the game, whatever game you guys are playing, like League of Legends or something, that could be possibly a showmanship of you guys as a team, right? Because I'm not a gamer, but I'm sure a lot of people spend a lot of time strategizing, and that is to show you're part of the team, and you need to have the skin to kind of show that. Other ways is certain skins are kind of like how you level up, right? So that gives you that utility so you can do certain things. Like maybe wearing these shoes are going to double up your power when you jump so you can actually finish the course faster or such that. So I think it's kind of the same. But to answer your question with like designer brands and designer brands working with other types or collaborations in gaming. So if you talk about like Fortnite kind of gaming or Roblox kind of gaming, some of these are just additional ways for gamers to be able to kind of see fashion for the first time. That is collaboration, and brands are deliberately working for these games or coming up with collaborations for these games because they want to reach those players.
Oh, okay. So actually, you brought up Roblox, which is super interesting because Roblox is arguably one of the metaverses that's picking up or gaining a lot of attraction in terms of corporates jumping in, right? What would be one of the things that people from the outside don't realize about Roblox? What do they not see and what do corporates see? Why are you getting all these corporates jumping into Roblox and not something like Decentraland, for example?
Okay. Well, I mean, they've been around a lot longer and they've already have the kind of strong user base, right? Roblox really kind of took off because of COVID, right? Because a lot of people needed to find a place to kind of beat their loneliness and they're all stuck at home, right? So I think in that sense, Roblox has all of the daily active users and all of the numbers. So for brands, they still need to justify that they're gonna spend money to have a design studio to build something elaborate enough, entertaining enough, having awesome gaming mechanisms that the players are gonna want to play. So I think those ones have the long-standing metrics and it's been around a lot longer, you know? So I think for brands, they choose it because there's simply more eyes on it. But it also depends on what their goal is, right? If they're looking for direct conversion or direct to buy or like, you know, offline buying or something, I think it's not really there yet. It's purely just for brand awareness. Storytelling, yeah.
Would you happen to know how much it would typically cost for, let's say, a corporate who would be interested in starting their first journey on Roblox? What would be a first step in the door type of project look like?
Yeah, so I have talked to other companies, and because I'm an ambassador for Exclusible for Roblox Gaming, I'm made aware that it depends on how complex it is, and if it's going to be a persistent game, if it's going to be a temporary game, if it's going to be just making a wearable, or is it going to be, not right now, but sooner you're going to find advertisements in Roblox type of thing. So I think you're looking at roughly at least $200,000 US dollars. Yeah, at least. That's probably the general amount, right? But I think I've also heard data that for every dollar kids spend on Roblox actually spend $1.45. So right now the conversion is actually like not making money, but it's purely just having people come on there and build up that people. So it's not like you cannot go in there thinking you're gonna make a lot because it may not happen. it really depends on if your players are really interested in what you're doing, the whole campaign and everything. And there's only a few that actually made significant revenues by selling their wearables. Yeah, so sometimes it's a hit and miss too. You just really don't know what those target audience are gravitating. Yeah.
You mentioned before a little bit about defining what you want. Like you just mentioned an example about, selling wearables. How are most brands, like what is a common trend for brands right now? Is it just to raise awareness with younger demographic? Is it more so to sell digital skins, or how are they really, like, where are they at right now in terms of the selling?
I think for most, as far as I know, a lot of brands are just kind of testing right now and finding the kind of right fit, the right audience, the right activation, the right gaming style, the mechanism, the right platform, So a good example would be BMW, okay? So BMW, they really are one of the first, I guess, well-known brand to really explore this whole world of Web3. They've done countless different activations across, I think I've been on one on Spatial, which is very easy to log on. They did some motor ride kind of launch for one of their latest motorcycle product, right? They've done lots of activations at CES in Las Vegas. They've also done the Ape Fest by bringing their cars here, right? So then they're kind of touching a little bit all of what's going on. But I've heard and read that they've actually have it right, because they want to be there at the right time to kind of test these markets, and they also choose the platform by their future target audience, right? So right now, if you're looking at people who ultimately need to buy cars, because that's what BMW sells, right? So they'll probably choose something like Fortnite over Roblox, because Roblox has technically younger audience.
I get
even though the age group, I think the stats are under 9 or 12 is 30%, and then something like 12 to 17 is probably a little bit more, and then 25 and above is about 16%. So we fit in the 16%, yeah? But that's not the right audience, whereas Fortnite has more of the right target audience of 16 to 25, and they're probably going to be more keen to buy the cars at the next stage. So it's really just about giving the brand story, getting to know those customers, understanding that what's going to keep them engaged, using their existing inventory of, I suppose if we talk NFTs, kind of stuff that they have, so they can customize and personalize their car, so they can test it on a aerial kind of like a driveway to see how it goes. So these are just kind of experience to get their interest. So then one day when they are ready, they're going to choose BMW over the other car, because they've already had that strong kind of connection to the brand. But it's not to sell a car the next day, right?
For sure, it's to get that product into the eyes of the viewers at a very early age. That's super interesting. In terms of metaverses that you've taken a look at, which one do you have a preference, right? Which one is your favorite, and why? Right? Like personally, I actually really like Decentraland, because that was probably the first metaverse where I truly explored. But a lot of people have issues with Decentraland, the art sandbox.
Are we gonna go down?
Let me say one thing. When is the last time you went on Decentraland, dog? Tell me real. When is the last time you went on Decentraland?
To be honest, probably last year.
Yeah, okay, cool. Good. Don't get it right. Yeah. You don't have to criticize anyone, but what's your favorite and why?
I just have to say, my first Metaverse place I've ever been was Decentraland. It was for the Metaverse Music Festival or something in 2021 or something. They did. Yeah, so I did go on it, but I think because there weren't a lot of other active users at the time because of the time zone. So there was a lot of DJs, and I remember there was a lot of well-known DJs that were playing sets. Yes. But I missed it because it was a time zone, right? So I have been on majority on all of them. I'm pretty much open to any new ones that I can explore. And random fact, at the height of metaverse platforms, when Facebook changed its name to Meta, I swear I've read somewhere that there was over 2,000 metaverse platforms, and that's now simmered down to about 200. And I've been on about 20-ish of them. So I think Decentraland is fun, when there is people there. So it is fun because but when you think about it, the whole idea of metaverse is to have multiplayer in real time, live streams, so you can do gaming and entertaining together. Forget the whole interoperable stuff. It's about being there and experiencing something together, right? So that's why you need to have people. So my best experience on Decentraland was for last year's Metaverse Fashion Week.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one worked out for me because I just came back from Europe, so I was very jet lagged. So I was up at 3 a.m. in the morning. I did have clothes sent to me from design fashion houses.
Wow.
So my avatar was completely dressed in
Decked out.
one-of-a-kind outfit, like in real life, like, you know, influencers, like brands sending you stuff. So I had my outfit, right? And then I found myself at Diesel's after party. And it was super happening. They were playing amazing music. And you could just imagine me going like this all night long, just pressing 2 buttons. And then my other hand was on Discord in the Adidas group and telling, hey, are you gonna go to this party? I'm gonna be there. Okay, let's meet. What is the coordinates? Like, it was actually really cool. Like, I think that was super fun. I have really good footage. I gotta show you.
Please do.
Yeah, but it was really fun because I had the right outfit. People walk by. Like, I have to say, anything you experience in real life, you do really, it actually is, there is the digital twin of it. Like, the things you experience, like people's wearing stuff and your mind is like, wow, that's a cool outfit. I want to be friends with her. Or what is she wearing? Or God forbid, we're wearing the same default outfit. Like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Hurry up, walk past. You know what I mean? Like, those things do exist.
For sure.
But okay, so back to my favorite. I've been on a lot. I think the ones that always impressed me each and every time is by a company called Journey. Journee. So the platform is not the type that's like white label where anyone can use it to build. It is a custom solution, a custom platform. So unlike Spatial or Decentraland, you know, it's not the same. But in terms of experience, it's the best because it actually blends what we're comfortable with, which is our existing website e-commerce experience. And then they're able to use it to kind of bridge you into the experiential deep diving experience. So storytelling, mousing over the products, as I'm not using headsets yet, you know, for these experiences. And it has the real life integration on the actual conversion. So if I see an outfit I like, I can mouse over it. It will have the same window that will pop up in the same box, so it's not opening a new page. All of these little changes makes it just so much one step closer to what we may experience in the full-fledged of the Apple Vision Pro. So I think so far they've been the most impressive, and I've been on about 7 of them, and all of them were wonderful.
And Journey is a web. You enter it through web browser, or is it? Do you have to download web browser?
Yeah.
Oh no. So there's one thing you mentioned. Sorry, not to go back too much, but you mentioned that after party, and it's really, the diesel thing. But like, is there anything that's not fun to experience in a metaverse? Like, I know people do music festivals and stuff, and like I've gone to some, and the vibe is really interesting. Or like watching a live sports game. Like, is there anything you think? I mean, obviously you wouldn't go to a food fair in the metaverse, or maybe you would. I don't know. Yeah, but is there anything you wouldn't want to like you've experienced it, and it's like it's probably better.
Okay, but you're right. You brought up the food one. Sometimes it's like it goes back to why I do this, and I try to deep dive and understand why a brand created such thing, you know. And some I do end up being, what was that about? Like, why, you know? And partly it, to me, and it's not to say negative things, because my role is to advocate and talk about the positive things. But I think it's about the connection, like what are you trying to achieve? So if it is a food related, naturally I cannot smell or taste, but then you have to think about what's the story you're trying to tell? Like, is it about the chef, right? Is it about the vibe, the people? Is it particular about the food? But you have to present it in a different way that doesn't tell you that I need to eat this burger to know. Maybe the special recipe or secret sauce you're looking for, like that, those makes the difference. But I have not come across one like that. And I have been on several food related ones, like should I name them? McDonald's on Sandbox.
We love the McNuggets. Not a good metaverse.
Gordon Ramsay's on also Sandbox.
Okay.
I have been on a few food ones.
You answered my question because I was gonna ask which one do you think. Like, do you think then, because it goes back to the communication angle you mentioned, like people aren't really telling the story. It's just like metaverse.
I think the food is really hard because, but that's what makes it interesting too, because it gives marketers a new canvas to come up with new ways to engage existing audience and the new audience as your target. So actually it's a good thing. So it's more like what can they come up with to make it relevant, because they're gonna miss out if they're not on it, right? But they're on it and good for them, they tried, right? But for me it was missing something. I didn't really know just yet. That one did have a purpose though. You can win a lifetime of McNuggets.
Oh, nuggets, yeah.
I want that prize.
Did you win?
No, I wish. I wanted that prize. I want that prize.
Yeah, there was a reason for it, that one.
I think it's actually, one thing you were talking about is like a canvas of can taste, and actually one of the most popular YouTube like content things, like the verticals, is like food and travel, right? You watch all these people make these like amazing meals, like binging with Babish, and you have all these cooks, but it's like, if you can't actually taste it, chances are you're never gonna cook it. And you watch these food traveler, like food bloggers, and you're like, you're never gonna eat the food. So
it's entertainment though.
It's entertainment, but actually I think that's a good point, because it's like that kind of content is like in a metaverse is actually more interactive than me just watching a guy eat the food and being like, oh wow, delicious. Whereas like to your point, I could learn the secret recipe, and that's something I think brands really do need help with, like thinking of the why of what they're doing, not just, hey, I'm going to do this. Like, why am I doing this?
But there's another thing though. If you think about the purpose of the metaverse, is we want you to spend time getting to know the brand, but the brand technically should also want to get to know you, right? For you to acquire, digital assets in their game as NFTs, as collectible, to show that you're there. Maybe that leads you to another connected journey where all of a sudden you are in their token gated community, and you guys can it would be a dualistic approach, right? So there are reasons why they should have gamers to spend time on it too, so they can learn about you and use that as one of the first steps to get to know you as a customer better too.
No, definitely. It has to be a two-way road, right? And then to your point, it helps the brand activate their superfans. But then if the brand is not engaging with their superfans, it's a wasted opportunity, because you can turn these guys into advocates, right? And we've seen that time and time again. So if the brand is not doing the other 50%, they're really leaving money on the table, if you put it that way, right?
What is, like, you mentioned a lot about NFTs and other things, like what is the future of, I don't want to say like just fashion industry, but like the future of the fashion industry or brands interacting with fans? Like you mentioned NFT, token gated content, like what is how do you see the future like of people interacting with brands?
I mean, I think this one, I can bring it back to what you guys are building, right?
Nice.
Right? Good plug there. Got it in. Yeah. But I think what it means is digital fashion is just one of the first approach, right? It's one of the first kind of visual thing that we see, that we gravitate towards, because it's an artistic kind of interpretation of something that we need, right? So that's just one item. Naturally, there's art, there's music, there's all types of things. But all in all of this actually leads to the new customer engagement, or the new quote unquote loyalty program, because all this time, all these customer loyalty program that they get you to give them your information and such. Are you actually truly loyal? I always wonder that, because I have all of these emails or notifications that reminds me of certain things, like giving me discounts, reminding me to use up my points by a certain time before it all goes away. Does that really mean I'm loyal? No, it actually makes me think is actually not loyal at all. It makes me actually not want to be engaging with that brand. So I think the new way forward is having these kind of assets on chain would be a way to help us connect with the brands, and the brand get to know you. We already covered that. And it's part of this whole kind of empowered community of new customers, because I have not thought of a new word to replace the word customers. We shouldn't call them customers anymore. That's actually how I think of it. I just have not thought of a new name yet. But it's to actually having a way to kind of have them be enablers, have them to truly, like you said, actually advocate for your brand. How do you do that? Through the different kind of tools or having things on chain that you're able to connect with these brands, be part of their product development, be part of their next event, be part of their next campaign. All of these things makes you feel so much more empowered as a customer than somebody telling you, well, you need to do this, you need to buy this, you have to buy this by this time, otherwise all your points are gone. I think that shift, a lot of people are over it because we know what can be done now.
No, there's this saying that will always resonate in my mind. It's people hate being sold to, but they love to buy. Right. So it's the saying that if I try to force feed something to you, you're probably going to push it away. Whereas if I tell you something great about a product and you see it yourself, you'll naturally be more inclined to go ahead and purchase it.
What is something you did a nice plug for it, but what is something you'd want to tell, like, the hardest part of being an entrepreneur? Like, for you starting LIVVIUM, like, what is the most difficult thing that is underappreciated?
Oh gosh, I think the most underappreciated thing is hard. like as in we don't realize that it's a lot of like hardship and uncertainty about being an entrepreneur, especially choosing to go all in this sort of space without having this sort of security, right? So in terms of like being an entrepreneur, you have to be really passionate about what you do and really believe in the space, and I truly do, and I truly hope what I'm doing is changing someone else's life somehow, like either that got them their first aha moment as in, oh, this is what Web3 is, this is what digital fashion is. All of those things still kind of drives me to keep doing it, but it's a lot of like uncertainty that I worry about all the time.
Do you think, I think the idea of going all in is like a really interesting and scary thing. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll start as a side hustle while I do my traditional corporate. But do you think it's better to go all in, or would you recommend some people to go that approach, or some people should just stick with the corporate career?
It's so hard to answer that, Tamer. But I think it's different for everyone.
That's true.
It's different for everyone. For me, I'm able to go all in. But that doesn't mean I'm not thinking about, am I too early? Should I still have my feet wet in Web3, but still keeping all of the traditional stuff going because they're not yet ready? Am I way too early? Am I early by 5 years, 10 years? Like, how early am I, you know? So there are, for some people, it's best to do it as a side hustle. And it also depends on what you're doing. Like, is it a tech platform? Do you need to build it? Is there gonna be lots of resources invested in it? Is there gonna be any kind of like, you know, something that's so life-changing that you need to go all in now? Or it can be slow build. Mine is a slow build because essentially I'm just working on my passion day to day, you know?
I love it. That was a great answer. You have the best advice. And we've all both had and the people listening, we have our aha moments listening to you talk about Web3.
Aww.
That was great. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and something that happens in certain podcasts, they ask a couple of like base questions at the end that people find are interesting. So it's no pressure, no pressure.
What is it about?
It's going to be called underrated, overrated. So in your life, it can be anything, right?
Okay.
What is one thing that you think is really underrated and one thing that you think is really overrated?
Okay. Oh gosh, I don't know.
I can give you an example. Corn dogs, underrated. Overrated, Slurpees. It doesn't have to be, it can be anything you want.
All right, overrated is, okay. Overrated is all this go, work hard, play hard.
It's essentially Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Or Asia.
Overrated.
Underrated is the act of doing nothing. Like,
I like that.
Like, just do nothing so you can absorb and you can think and focus. So what's next? Like, you have to give yourself space so you know what's
grow.
next.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're always on the go, you cannot process Yeah.
nuggets, like golden nuggets.
Yeah,
I like
I'm
that.
going forest bathing. Have you guys heard forest bathing?
I have now.
Well, because when I go to Switzerland, I'm
Right.
going to surround myself in just landscape and just be close to earth,
I like that.
sun, sky, water, and just forest bathe.
Like, do you just like hug a tree?
Yeah, sure. If that means it's, you
Hey,
know.
sometimes that works, yo.
I'm gonna hug a tree outside, but it's a cyberport tree. But I'm gonna go. No, I'm going skiing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love it. I love it.
Let me ask you an easier question. What are you streaming these days?
On Netflix?
Yeah, on any platform actually. YouTube, Netflix,
Oh, okay.
Prime.
So I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
And it could be all kinds of things. But streaming right now, I'm actually going back to old old shows that are pretty much finished because I like to watch all of it. Like I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
So I'd rather wait for years till it's
Just
till it's
complete.
done and it's complete, and then I'll go back and I'm just gonna binge
Binge it.
watch. So I watched the latest Griselda on Netflix, which is with Sofia Vergara.
She's the narco queen, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
about Griselda Blanco.
Yeah.
But because of that, and the producer was part of Narcos, and I've never watched Narcos, so I went back to watch Narcos. So I'm watching Narcos right now.
Okay. I'm not gonna ruin it for you. That's probably one of my favorite series out
Okay.
there. Yeah. So streaming that. What about? What are the podcasts?
Oh, okay.
People love recommendations.
That's
so
true.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I listen to naturally. I have to listen to everything created by Kathy Hackle because when I first discovered the Metaverse,
Mhm.
and I've met her in person last year, and I have all her books and everything. She is the I think her name is Godmother of Metaverse. I think
Could
that's
see that.
her nickname. She's a technologist, and she's come up with amazing podcasts in the past. So back then, I promise you, when I started looking up Metaverse, there really weren't that much stuff going on, and everyone's using the same kind of image to depict what the Metaverse looked like. I swear, like that was the only one. So she has a new podcast called Tech Magic, I think.
Okay.
So listen to her. It covers all things related to tech, not just Metaverse, because she's also expanded her interest and what she talks about. Another one is Gen Z by Consensus. I love the guys, Sam and Avery of Vayner Media and stuff, and I listen to that one. That keeps me really up to date. So those ones, and then of course there's other ones. I love listening to like deep dive journalism, kind of like things that we don't know about, and people actually kind of piques their interest, and they deep dive, and then they made it into a book or a podcast, like investigative journalism. I love those ones. So that type, and my little secret stuff that I love is I love all those like true crime kind of stuff. You're all. I do love it. Unfortunate, like I don't know.
No, those are
Great.
interesting.
Great.
I don't know, but
For
so that's that. Yeah.
First 48. You guys ever watch that on A&E? It's like 48 hours before.
Oh yeah, sure.
a murder
Sure,
goes
sure, sure.
cold.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's on the streaming side. What about for books? What would you
Okay.
be recommending?
So The Future of Community by a guy named John Kraske and his other friend. It's very interesting. The main guy
He posts a lot on LinkedIn, right, John
he posts
Kraske?
a lot. So he published a book, him and his partner, about 2 months ago, and I picked up the book for holiday read. Super easy read. It really just talks about how Web3 technology is going to help grow your business,
Oh,
right? And it's interesting because it also shares how they met and how they're both prominent figures in the Web3 world and what they're kind of building and stuff like that. So it's interesting to follow that. So I'm almost done that book. Books that I've been featured in that I received the physical book recently. Yeah, so there's a few. One is called Undocked. So these are all coffee table books. I love the feeling of these like really thick, heavy, beautiful, coffee table books. So one is called Undocked, and that one is just about digital fashion, style, all of the amazing Web3 and NFT projects that's related to lifestyle, streetwear, urban, culture, music. So that's like a whole kind of archive of everything that happened the last year. Super beautifully curated. And I was featured in it to talk about my digital fashion style. So that one's Undocked. And another one that came out was called New Society. That one I'm a contributor. So I wrote some articles. I think one of them is called, I forgot the whole title now, but something about the culture of crypto bros. This I finished about a year ago. So that came out, and I'll go to the book signing in Paris next month.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Cool. Thank you so much, Olivia,
Thank
for your time.
you.
Thank you so much for the great advice. We love you. We appreciate
Thank you. Love you back.
Read her books, follow her on all her channels will be linked below. Thanks. Bye.